79, numbers 5 through 11, odd, and 17 through 35, odd. Here we go. For numbers 5 and 7 and 9 and 11. Well, let's start with 5 and 7. First of all, 5 and 7 say to write the standard form of the equation of the circle with the given radius whose center is at the origin. So, we know the circle has a center at the origin, so the center is 0, 0. So we know we have x squared plus y squared, correct? Then we know whatever the radius is, we put it over here with a power of 2. So there's my radius, I put a 4, and then I square it. You are totally finished. Now, if you would like to write your answer like this, some teachers are really particular, I'm not. I have no problem with either one of these two answers, okay? And you can tell my pen is doing all kinds of weird stuff tonight. There we go. Okay. Number 7. So we have a center at 0, 0 at the origin. So we know the equation is x squared plus y squared. Excuse me. And then we have a radius of square root of 3. So square root of 3 squared. Now, if you did not put the parentheses, I would not be too upset about that, but technically you probably should. Either way, that's totally fine, okay? This is fine for an answer, or this is fine for an answer, or if you want to put 3, because we know the square root of 3 squared is just 3. That would also be acceptable. Okay, so either one of these two answers is fine. Now, numbers 9 and 11, the directions are the same. When they say to write, we're still writing the equation of a circle. However, now they're telling us the center is at 0, 0. I'm gonna give you a picture of these guys. I need to. So the center is at 0, 0, and then a point that lies on the circle is given to you. So negative 2, negative 4. There we go. So that's a point that lies on the circle. Got it? So the circle would look something like this. Of course, I'm not worried about the picture being perfect. Just sketching a rough drawing here. Alright, so there's my circle. So this ordered pair here is negative 2, negative 4. And this ordered pair here, of course, is 0, 0. So really, if I know if I know the center is at 0, 0, then I know part of my equation is this. So really, students, the only thing I'm missing is my radius. Well, look, the radius, even though I don't know the length of it, runs from here to here. That line right there is my radius, right? So if I could find the distance from this point here to this point here, that would be the radius, wouldn't it? Sure it would. The distance of this line is the length of that line, so let's find the length of that line so that we have the radius. X minus x, quantity squared, plus y minus y, quantity squared. So I have an x of negative 2 and an x of 0, so negative 2 negative 2 minus 0 squared plus negative 4 is a y and 0 is a y, so negative 4 minus 0. Well, let's see. Negative 2 minus 0 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. So I have the square root of 20. Alright, by the way, do not take the square root of 4 and put a 2 on the outside, and the square root of 16 and put a 4 on the outside, and then multiply those and get 8. You might say, oh, Mr. Aaron, we did that before in the past. No, we didn't. We only did that when we had one term. Now, if this 4 and 16 were multiplying, that makes them one term. Then you could take the square root of 4 and put a 2 on the outside, take the square root of 16, put a 4 on the outside, and your answer would be 8. That's fine. But you cannot do it when the two numbers are not multiplying. Okay? So the square root of 20 is my radius, so the distance of this line is square root of 20. Now, if you want that in decimal form, it would be, give me a second here, it would be 4.47, alright? So my radius is square root of 20, that's the distance of this line, so you put your radius right here, right? And then you do what to it? Square it. This is a perfect answer. Or if you would also like to put this for your answer, I would have no problem with that, because the square root of 20 squared is 20. Alright, okay, moving on to some graphing problems now. Well, I'm sorry, no. We have one more of these. Okay, I'm going to give you a picture of it again, just so we're not confused. Here's the center right here at 0, 0. And a point that lies on the circle is negative 5. Positive 1. So there's a point on the circle right there. So the circle would come up, come around. Of course, again, just sketch it. This will be perfect. And if you don't want to sketch the circle, you don't have to. I'm doing this so the students can at least see what we're doing here, okay? So this would be negative 5, positive 1, negative 5, positive 1. So if we can find the length of this segment right here, that'll be the radius. So of course we're going to use the distance formula. X minus x, quantity squared, plus y minus y, quantity squared. So x minus x, negative 5, and 0 are x's. So negative 5 minus 0. Boy, I hope this pen starts straightening up. It's going to be a long video if it doesn't. Plus, and then y minus y. 1 is my y and 0 is my y, so 1 minus 0. So now we have negative 5 minus 0, negative 5 squared is 25. 1 minus 0 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1, so 25 plus 1, square root of 26. So that's the radius. Radius equals square root of 26. So the center is at 0, 0, so I know I have x squared plus y squared. And then my radius is square root of 26. So I'll put my radius right here. And of course you square it, and that is your answer. Also, if you want, you're more than welcome to put this right here. Alright, there we go. There's your two answers. Now we're going to get into graphing, okay? Number 17 through 27 odd. I think we have 6 of those. Are going to be graphing, so let's jump right into these. They're pretty simple. Okay, first of all, make sure that the x squared and the y squared have coefficients of 1, like this, okay? Now that we've done that, we know the center is at 0, 0, alright? Now the radius, we don't know the radius unless we have a power of 2 right here. So how can I write 2 with a power of 2 so that its value doesn't change? Well, I can show you how. The number 2 equals the square root of 2 squared. So in place of this 2 right here, I can put square root of 2 squared. So now I know my radius is what? Square root of 2. Now, that's really not going to help me when it comes to graphing. Okay, let me show you what I mean. We're going to have to convert that to a decimal. Okay, watch. I know my center of the circle is at 0, 0. Okay? But now the radius is square root of 2. That doesn't help me a whole lot. I have to know how far over to go, how far up to go. So the square root of 2 is 1.4. So I'm going to go over 1.4. Go over 1.4. Go up 1.4. Go down 1.4. And that's going to be the points I'm going to connect for my circle. Alright? So, and actually I really went too far in a couple of these. So 1.4, 1.4, 1.4, and 1.4. There we go. So my circle looks something like this. You're saying, Mr. Earhart, how will you know if we graph these correctly or not? Well, guys, look. Just so I can see your work on a test or a quiz, I want to see your work and see what your radius was. And off to the side somewhere you could put radius as 1.4. And then I would know that you would just sketch the graph. That would be fine, okay? Alright, number 19. Now it looks like they're mixing in some parabolas with some circles, okay, which is good practice. I'm glad they're doing that. So let's take a look at this. So this one here is going to be a parabola because only the x is squared. If the x was not squared and the y was squared, then we'd have a parabola still, okay? Now, we know that it's x squared term and a y term, or if I had only an x term and a y squared term, then we know that we're going to have, the parabola is going to have a vertex at 0. Okay, so we know the vertex is at 0, and we also learned the other day when graphing these to isolate the non-squared variable. So y equals negative x squared. Alright, so I've isolated the non-squared variable. I taught you that in the last lesson. And then I told you guys whatever variable is squared, that's the variable you're going to put values in for, okay? Now we know the vertex is 0, 0, so we're going to put that in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and put 2 and 4, negative 2 and negative 4. And actually, you know what? There's no fraction here. So I'm going to go ahead and put just 1 and 2. Negative 1 and negative 2. And if you'll think back, now listen, if you'll listen, I can help you understand this, okay? If you'll think back to the lesson that we did from 1.1, a lot of the problems we did, once you got y by itself or x by itself, there was a fraction here like negative 1/8 or 3/4 or something like that. And so I used 2, 4, negative 2, negative 4 over here just to give me bigger values over here so I can see the graph a little better. But there's no need to do that when I don't have a fraction here, okay? It's just negative x squared. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and put these values in. If I put 2 in, remember you don't square the negative, it looks like this, guys. Okay? So 2 times 2 is 4, and then bring down the negative sign, negative 4. Same thing with 1. Put a 1 in, 1 times 1 is 1, then bring down the negative sign. Now, when we put negative 1 in for x, we're going to get out negative 1. Watch. Bring down your negative sign, put a negative 1 in. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, then bring down your negative sign. Also, same thing with negative 2, put a negative 2 in here. Square the negative 2, you get a positive 4. And then bring down your negative sign, negative 4. So there we go, there's our parabola. Let's grab this coordinate plane here. Let's pull it up, and let's sketch the graph. Set the vertex at 0, 0. I'm over 1, down 1, over 2, down 4, over 1, down 1, over 2, down 4. And there's the parabola. Alright. And moving on. Alright, moving on. Number 21. Okay, we have a circle because we have x squared and y squared, plus there's a 1 here and a 1 here. So we know the center is going to be 0, 0. All that we're looking for now is the radius. Well, how can I rewrite this so that it still is 36 but has a power of 2? Well, 36 equals what? 6 squared. So instead of having a 36 here, I'm going to put 6 squared. Alright? So now I can see my radius is 6. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and graph the circle. Alright? Center at 0, 0. Go up 6. Go up 6. Over 6. Down 6. Over 6. And again, I'm not trying to win an art award here. I'm just going to graph these quickly. I would want you guys to hopefully take a little more pride in your work. I'm just trying to hurry through this so you can understand how to do this. But there's our circle, okay? I hope that was 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So my center's at 0, 0, and my radius is 6. Number 23. Now, I have an x squared and a y squared and a 1 here and a 1 here. So I know I have a circle equation and the center is at 0, 0. Now how can I rewrite 8 so that it has a power of 2 without changing the value? Well, 8 is not a perfect square like in the last problem. 36 was a perfect square. So I can rewrite it with 6 squared, okay? Well, 8's not a perfect square, but I can rewrite it like this. 8 equals the square root of 8 squared, so cross off the 8 and simply put square root of 8 squared. Now I know the radius is square root of 8, which of course we need a decimal because we're going to graph it. And the square root of 8 is 2.8. 2.8. So there's my radius, 2.8. you're seeing these are pretty simple. Just put your center at 0, 0, and then count over for your radius. So my center is at 0, 0. Go over 2.8. Go up 2.8. Over 2.8. Down 2.8. And there's the circle. Alright. Sketch the graph. Just do a decent job with it. And that's good enough. Alright. Okay, moving on to number 25. Now, I do not have a 1 and a 1. However, if I divide everything by 6, that will take care of my coefficients for my x squared and my y squared. So when I divide everything by 6, I'm going to come up with 24 over here. So, now I have a 1 here and a 1 here, x squared plus y squared. So I know my center is at 0, 0. And now the only thing left for me to find is my radius. So if somehow I can write 24 with a power of 2, well, 24 equals the square root of 24 squared. So instead of having a 24 here, I'm going to put square root of 24 squared. So now I can see my radius is the square root of 24, which would be 4.9, 4.89, 89, so 4.9. So the center is 0, 0, my radius is 4.9, alright? So here we go. Here's my center. Right here, if I get my pen to work. There we go. 4.9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so about right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. So there we go. And there we go. Alright. Number 27. Okay, same thing. I do not have a 1 and a 1 here. So I'm going to divide everything by 20, okay? That would leave me with x squared positive y squared equals 20. Alright? So I have 1x squared plus 1y squared, so I know my center is 0, 0. How can I rewrite 20 with a power of 2 without changing the value? Well, the square root of 20 squared equals 20, so instead of having 20 here, I'm going to put this instead. Alright, so now I know my radius is square root of 20. So square root of 20 equals 4.47, so 4.5. Alright, so there's my center, and there's my radius. Alright, let's sketch the graph. So the circle comes up. And there's the circle. Okay, students, not that bad, really. Not that difficult at all. Now here's where we get into the difficult problems. I've given you 4 of these, okay? We are now going to find the points of intersection of the graphs, okay? This will not be easy. So here we go. Okay, first of all, I want you to learn to evaluate the system first before you start working on it. In other words, ask yourself, what types of graphs do I have? Like my first one here is x squared plus y squared with a 1 here and a 1 here. So I know that I have a circle graph, okay? Here I have an x to the power of 1, x to the power of 1, that's linear. So guys, think about it. I have a circle. I might have a line like this where there's no intersections. I might have a line like this that intersects the circle once, or the line might go through it twice, so I might have no answers, 1 answer, or 2 answers, okay? So here we go. It's always good to check that out first, okay? We're going to use substitution, so I'm going to take this equation here, I'm going to get the x by itself, or the y by itself, it doesn't matter. For me, I'm going to get the x by itself, so x positive y equals -1. Bring the y over make it negative. Negative 1, negative y. So this is what x equals right here. So go into the other equation where the x is, right here. I'm going to put negative 1, negative y. But then square it because there's a square right here. And then positive y squared equals 1. Okay, when you square this, remember negative 1, negative y squared means this. It means write the parentheses twice, okay? Remember that. So here's what you would get. You would get a positive 1, a positive y squared, and let's see, a positive 2y, and then bring down your y squared. So if I simplified all my like terms over here, I would have 2y squared, positive 2y, positive 1 equals 1. Look at that. Okay, I just took this side here, simplified it, and wrote it in standard form, okay? That's all that I did. Alright, moving on. Now, I see right away I have a quadratic equation, so I want to get one side equal to 0. Bring this 1 over and make it a negative 1, and they cancel out. So I'm left with 2y squared plus 2y equals 0. That's easy. I can factor this. Pull out a 2y, and I'm left with y plus 1. Pretty simple, guys. Okay? So take this group, set it equal to 0, and solve, and you get 0. Take this group, set it equal to 0, and solve, and you get negative 1. So there's your 2y answers. Got it? Y equals 0. Y equals negative 1. Now, we must take those values and substitute them back in, okay? To find what the x values are that go with it, okay? And so that's what we're going to try to do right now. And so here we go. I always recommend making your back substitutions in to the linear equation if you have one. So where y is, I'm going to put a 0, alright? So x, and this pen's not working out, maybe the mouse will work better. X plus y, which is 0, equals negative 1, alright? Well, x plus 0 is x, so x equals negative 1. So when y is 0, x is negative 1. So write your answer the proper way. Negative 1, comma, 0. There's your x and there's your y. Now, let's substitute negative 1 in for y. So x plus, and then parentheses, negative 1 equals negative 1. So x positive negative 1 is negative 1. Now bring the negative 1 over and make it positive, and look what you get, 0. So when y is negative 1, x is 0. So there's your other ordered pair. X comes first, and then your y comes second. 0, comma, negative 1. Let me check the answers, and that is correct. So we have a situation where the line went through the circle twice and intersected it twice. Alright? Alright, number 31. Same thing, we have a circle and a linear equation. So we might have no answers. We might have one answer. We might have two answers. Alright, so let's see what happens here. Okay, let's get x or y. In the last problem, we got what by itself? We got x by itself. So this problem, we'll do it differently. We'll get y by itself. So x plus y equals 14. Bring the x over and make it negative. And y equals 14 negative x, okay? So here's what y equals. So we're going to pick that up and put it in for y right here. So I have x squared, positive, and then parentheses, 14 negative x. Quantity squared, because there's a squared right here, equals 100. So 14 negative x squared is the same thing as 14 negative x times 14 negative x. Alright? Please don't forget that. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to bring down our x squared, and then we're going to multiply this out, and you're going to get 196. Now I'm doing this a little bit in my head here. 196. Positive x squared, and then negative 28x. Alright? Now on this left side over here, I've got some simplifying I can do. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared. Then put your negative 28x next. Standard form. And then your positive 196. And then equals 100. Alright? Now, we notice we have a quadratic equation, so we're going to want to get one side equal to 0. Alright, so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to bring the 100 over and make it a negative 100. If my pen will let me do this. And I'm not sure what happened there. Still not sure what's going on with this thing. There we go. Alright, now let's bring the 100 over and make it a negative 100. So I'm left with 2x squared, negative 28x, positive 96 equals 0. Now we're going to try to factor like we always do. However, before we do that, we can definitely pull out a 2 first to make this a little easier. Okay, so I'm left with 2x squared minus 14x plus 48. Now a lot of you might say, Mr. Earhart, I just divided everything by 2. That's fine. Divide everything by 2. You're still left with x squared, negative 14x, positive 48 equals 0. It doesn't matter if you factor out a 2 or divide everything by 2. Either way, you're going to get the same answer in the end. Okay? Trust me. Alright, so let's factor this. What two numbers would multiply together give me 48 when added together give me negative 14? I'm thinking of negative 6 and negative 8. When you multiply them together, you get 48. When you combine them, you get negative 14. So now take each group and set each group equal to 0. I'm not going to worry about this group here because there's no x with it, okay? But this group here is set equal to 0 and solved is 6. This group here is set equal to 0 and solved is 8. So these are my two x values. X equals 6. X equals 8. Now, let's take those and substitute those back in and see what we get for y. So x equals 6. We'll put a 6 right here. Bring the 6 over, make it a negative 6, and y equals 8. So when x is 6, y is 8. Alright, now let's take a look at, let's substitute the other x value in, which is 8. So 8 positive y equals 14. Bring the 8 over and make it a negative 8, and we get a 6. So when x is 8, y is 6. Let me check the answers real quick and make sure that's correct. And that is correct. Alright, number 33. Number 33. Okay, same thing again. We have we have a circle equation and a line, okay? So we might have no answers, one answers, or two answers, okay? So let's get the x by itself. Since the y is negative, I'm going to bring that over and make it positive. So I'm going to solve for x, bring the y over and make it positive 1, positive y. So right here for x, I'm going to substitute 1 plus y, alright? So 1 plus y quantity squared, positive y squared equals 4. Now 1 plus y squared of course means 1 plus y, 1 plus y. So we would get 1 plus y squared plus 2y. Bring down your y squared, bring down your 4. Y squared plus y squared would be 2. Y squared positive 2y, positive 1 equals 4. Okay? Now we notice we have a quadratic equation, so we want to factor. So we're going to get one side equal to 0, bring the 4 over, make it a negative 4, and I'm left with 2y squared, positive 2y, negative 3 equals 0. Alright? So let's factor this. Let's see if we can get some answers here for x, or for y, excuse me. So here we go. We're factoring a trinomial with a legal coefficient of 2, so 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And guess what? It's not factorable. There are no numbers that multiply together give you a negative 6 when combined give you a positive 2. So we're going to have to use the good old quadratic formula. So here we go. Negative b plus minus the square root of b squared. If I can get this thing to work, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So here we go. Negative b, this is my a. This is my b, this is my c. Negative b, b is 2, so negative 2. Plus minus the square root of b squared, b is 2, so 4. Then negative 4. Then a times c, 2 times negative 3, negative 6. And then 2 times a, 2 times 2 is 4. Now let's simplify under the radical. Negative 2, positive negative, the square root of. Okay, now look guys, you don't subtract have learned how to simplify these. And so, let's see if we can't simplify this real quick. Okay, I really don't want you to have decimal answers. I want you to learn to simplify these, okay? So here we go. 28 is the same thing as 4 times 7, right? Now cross off the 4 because we know the square root of 4 and put a 2 right here. So now I have negative 2 plus minus 2 square root of 7 all over 4. Now all of these outside numbers can be reduced by 2. If this was a 3 right here, then you could not reduce because the 2 has to go into everything, not just these two numbers here. So here we go. 2 goes into all these, so I have a negative 1 here. I have a 1 here and a 2 here. So I end up with the following. Alright, I end up with, if I get this thing to work, negative 1 plus minus 1. I don't need that 1 there. Plus minus square root of 7 all over negative 2. Alright, that's my x. Those are my y values, okay? If you go back to the problem we had up here, we had an equation that was a y. Okay, if you look in your notes, you'll see it. We were solving for y, okay? So we're solving for y, and those are the two answers that we get. Now, here's what I want you to do. If you'll take really good notes and pay attention, I can show you how to do this, okay? But you've got to really focus and follow along carefully, okay? So here we go. First of all, like I just said, we're dealing with y's. So here's my two y answers. One answer is negative 1 positive negative square root of, no, not positive, negative 1 plus square root of 7 over negative 2. Alright? And then the other answer is, the other y value is negative 1 minus square root of 7 all over negative 2. So I took my positive sign here and my negative sign here for two different y answers. Now the back of the book's going to have their answers just a tad different than ours, but I would like to make a suggestion to you that I feel makes this probably a lot easier in my opinion. And we learned how to do this earlier this year. We had something like this. 2 plus 4i all over 3. You guys learned to write 2/3 plus 4/3 I, like that, okay? Well, same thing here. I'm going to rewrite my two y answers like this. This will make it a lot easier when we substitute this into the equation. I'm going to say y equals negative 1 over negative 2 is a positive 1/2. And then a positive over a negative is negative square root of 7 over 2. I split it up into two fractions. Watch us do it again over here. Negative 1 over negative 2 is a positive 1/2. And a negative square root of 7 over negative 2 is a positive square root of 7 over 2. So there's your two y answers. Now we're going to substitute those in for y in just a second here. And here we go. Alright, so I have x minus, and then here's y. Put a parentheses and put your y in. 1/2 minus square root of 7 over 2 equals 1. Take your negative sign and multiply it through. Negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a negative is a positive. Square root of 7 over 2. Now, I'm not sure why I put a equal sign here, but I should not have. This will just be x negative. Now, we want to get x by itself, so bring these two terms over, and you would have x equals positive 1/2 plus negative square root of 7 over 2 and positive 1. Now here I have like terms here and here. I can't combine whole numbers and radicals, but I can say x equals 1/2 plus 1. That's 1 and 1/2, or 3 over 2. So 3 over 2 minus square root of 7 over 2. So when y is this, x is answer in the back of the book will be a little different, but that's okay. I think it's a lot, trust me, it's a lot easier to put in these broken down fractions like this than one big fraction with the quadratic formula. Much easier. Now, same thing here for y, x, negative, then put a parentheses, positive 1/2, positive square root of 7 over 2, equals 1. Take your negative and multiply it through. Negative 1/2, negative square root of 7 over 2, equals 1. Now bring all of these over. So x equals 1, and then positive 1/2, and then positive square root of 7 over 2. Combine these two terms here, and you end up with x equals 1 and 1/2, or 3 over 2, plus square root of 7 over 2. So, my x, when y is this, x is this, so they go together. 3 over 2 plus square root of 7 over 2, comma, 1/2 plus square root of 7 over 2. Alright, now, I know this is, a lot of work, but that is how you would write your answer, okay? Alright, one more problem, guys, and we're finished. Okay, here we have a parabola and a linear equation. So we're going to have a parabola. The line might go like this and miss it. It might go right here and hit the vertex, intersect it once, or it might go through here and intersect it twice. So we might have no answers, one answer, or two answers, okay? So they've done us a favor already. Y is already isolated. Y equals negative x. So where the y is right here, I'm going to put negative x, alright? So x squared equals 8 parentheses negative x, alright? So where the y is, I put negative x. Y equals negative x. So now I have x squared equals 8 times negative x, negative 8x. Now, I have a quadratic equation, right? Look, x squared. So I know right away I want to get one side equal to 0. So bring your 8x over and make it positive. And now factor and pull out an x, and you're left with x plus 8 after the last problem we did. That was a killer of a problem. We deserve a nice easy one like this. We're basically done. Look at that. Pull out an x, and you're left with x plus 8. So set this group equal to 0, and you'll get 0. Set this group equal to 0 and solve, and you'll get this. So x equals 0, and x equals negative 8. Pretty cool. Pretty easy. So now make those substitutions back into your linear equation. Y equals negative, then put x in. 0. So negative 0 is 0. So when x is 0, y is 0. So there's one answer. Alright, I just checked the back of the book. That is correct. Now we're going to put negative 8 in for x. So y equals a negative sign and then negative 8. Alright, so negative is positive. So when x is negative 8, y is positive 8. Negative 8, positive 8. And there we go. Okay, guys, I really hope this homework help video has been a help to you. Please use this video to help you understand your homework, okay?